on the issues of caring for the poor, welcoming the stranger, healthcare, opposing racism, treating women with respect. They are light years closer to the teachings of Jesus and the Gospels than the policies of Donald Trump, which continues to be the brazen junk wagging opposite of everything Jesus commands of us. I don't really see why those of us who've read the Gospels should believe that people who endorse Donald Trump respect the teachings of Christ.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I've got an incredibly intense one for you today. We are breaking down a fiery clash between John Fugelsang and Andrew Wilson that gets right to the heart of religion, morality, and modern politics. John absolutely corners Andrew by using actual biblical scriptures to question how right-wing policies treat the most vulnerable people in society. The tension is through the roof as they go head-to-head over immigration, billionaire bailouts, and what it actually means to practice what you preach on a legislative level. You are definitely going to want to stick around for the entire breakdown, because the way John exposes the political hypocrisy at the very end is nothing short of a masterclass. Before we get started, I always love seeing how far this community reaches, so drop a quick comment below and let me know what city or country you are tuning in from today. Alright, let's get into the video. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.
Matthew 25, the judgment of nations, is Jesus giving his policy prescription to society. And he is telling you that his fake followers are the ones who claim they follow him, but they don't, as societies, take care of the poor, take care of the sick, welcome the stranger, and are kind to those in prison. Jesus is literally telling you what you need to do to earn the label a Christian nation. And his entire movement is about humility. But thinking you're better than someone else, or that you deserve power because God likes you better, that's idolatry. That's a
then
big
John. All you're doing here is
all
you're doing here is refuting your own argument, because what you're proposing right this second is your proposition is to create and advocate for a voting bloc, which will then get into power so that they can implement your agenda. And you just laid out what your agenda is. Hang on, John. That's what you want to implement, is your agenda via the utilization of a voting bloc. So in my opening, remember when I said, for John, this is actually about power. What you just admitted to, John, is that it is. It's just about wanting a power block to enforce your will, and you don't want Christians to do the same thing back.
No, it's really about you needing to do this whole shtick of yours. Can you please tell me what teaching of Christ does the MAGA
are we gonna do this again? Is this debate about the MAGA movement?
Yeah.
What teaching of Christ does right-wing Christianity fight for legislatively in government, please?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, that's a really good one. So I think that the best way to uplift the impoverished of the nation is most certainly not to have mass migration from countries that hate Christians, John. Especially if they're going to bankrupt our social, hang on, and especially if they're going, I just told you, if you want to uplift the poor, if you want to really take care of poor people, you don't do that by giving them money. That's not how you take care of the poor. You take care of the poor by uplifting them so that they can take care of themselves.
Direct action. The Bible's not about thoughts and prayers. Read James, the brother.
I'm talking about direct action. What problem? I'm talking about direct action.
Not passively hoping someone else will come along and help.
You know, you got to at least let me. Can I get the proposition out first before you criticize it? The truth is that the very same thing you're talking about with nationalized healthcare and things like this, the countries that you would point to who have the nationalized healthcare don't have mass migration, John, because it completely crushes your social healthcare system. All of the Nordic states you'd point to utilize their model, they don't have mass migration there, John. They don't have it.
About the brown
it's
people.
It's not there.
Right?
No. It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter what color they were, John. What matters is that if you see how you won't let me even get it out, John. But at least let me get it out so that you can then critique it.
Please,
so anyway,
tell me about
can you explain? So they don't have mass migration for a reason. Because if you mass migrate in people and then they're getting free medical service from you, somebody has to pay for it, John. It's either going to be the state, it's either going to be the state or the private sector.
Why is Jesus
so the thing
wrong?
is we already
Why
have.
Is Jesus
John,
wrong?
I didn't say it was wrong, John. I'm saying you're wrong. It is in the implementation of the policies that you'd want to see from Christian ethics. The best thing for Christian ethics would be for you to uplift the current poor we have instead of creating new amounts of poor. So everybody has a lot less instead of some people having more than others, John.
What is the right wing doing to help the current poor we have?
Oh my God. Let's start with the veterans programs. Let's just start with the veteran program.
This is exactly where the conservative facade completely crumbles. When John Fugelsang points out that thinking you are better than someone else or that you deserve power because God likes you better is literally idolatry, he hits the absolute core of the issue. You have to understand what is happening here. The modern religious right has replaced actual spirituality with a lust for political dominance. And look at how Andrew Wilson responds. Instead of addressing the theology, Andrew Wilson said this: "What you just admitted to, John, is that it is just about you wanting a power block to enforce your will." This blows my mind every single time I hear it. Andrew Wilson is projecting so hard here. He cannot fathom a worldview where people genuinely just want to help the vulnerable because it is the right thing to do. In his mind, advocating for the poor must be a trick to gain power, because that is exactly how his side operates. They use religion as a shield to build a voting bloc, so they assume everyone else is doing the exact same thing. And then we get the ultimate conservative cop-out. Andrew Wilson said this: "You take care of the poor by uplifting them so that they can take care of themselves." Let me break down why this matters. Uplifting them in this context is just code for doing absolutely nothing. It is the political equivalent of thoughts and prayers. You do not uplift a starving person by telling them to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. You feed them. The historical hypocrisy here is staggering. During the Gilded Age, the wealthiest robber barons used this exact same logic, called social Darwinism, claiming that helping the poor would just make them lazy. It was a convenient excuse to hoard wealth while workers starved in the streets. John Fugelsang is bringing the actual teachings of the gospel, focusing on direct action and mutual care, while Andrew Wilson is essentially regurgitating 19th century corporate propaganda disguised as Christian ethics. This is not about uplifting anybody. It is about protecting a system that benefits the few while leaving the vulnerable entirely to fend for themselves.
Stop, everyone. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and set a timer because we're getting a little out of hand and it's just becoming chaotic. So I'm just gonna do a 1 minute timer. I believe we left off. John was answering the question. I'm gonna go ahead and start the timer. It should automatically restart after every minute goes off. Please be mindful of it. Follow through on it. If not, I can just mute you. All right, go ahead, John.
So I'm so sorry. I don't want to talk over anyone. When my clock is ticking, then I can talk. I'm just trying to get it right. My first time here. Thank you.
That's okay.
What am I responding to? I mean, I asked you what teachings of Christ the MAGA movement or Trumpism fights for on a legislative basis. Right now, this budget calls for kicking 20 million low-income and disabled people off of Medicaid. When Jesus commands you to welcome the stranger, it sure doesn't sound fun to me. It sounds scary. It sounds very unpleasant. When he commands us to go to the margins and take care of the least of those, it sounds horrifying. Why is Trump right and Jesus is wrong? That's the only question. Thank you. That's it. I don't need more time.
Yeah. So the problem is that that's 10 minutes, by the way. But the problem with this is that this is a bifurcation. Neither option here that you have proposed is actually true. You ask, how is Trump right? Jesus is wrong, as though they're in contention with each other. They're not in contention with each other. You're saying that Medicaid, a social safety net, which is there's going to be possibly some people who get kicked off of it due to the new budget system. We have no idea if that's even the case. There's not a single person who's been kicked off of Medicaid right now under Trump. Not one person, John, has been kicked off of Medicaid.
John,
why are you talking during my time, John? See why I told you you're a filibuster machine?
You're right.
You can't help it. So anyway, the point here is that also all you got to do is look at the parable of the talents. Those who would return in spiritual wealth, right? What their master gives them. In this case, Trump made an office, a spiritual office. Trump went on and he declared that there's only two genders which are allowed. No more of this heinous mutilation of children, which has been going on from the trans ideological perspective. I could go on and on and on when we go into the bounties. There's no Democrat operatives you can point to have any of the fruits of the spirit that you would be looking for. Not one, John. Name one.
Go ahead, John.
Thank you. I'm not a Democrat. I've never belonged to a political party. I've never once belonged to a political party. Again, I asked you to give me one teaching of Christ, and again, how are you all helping the poor? Again, it's not a few; it's 20 million. This is why our government is shut down. I have never been a Democrat. I think they walk around in clown shoes, and they are very far from the teachings of Christ. But on the issues of caring for the poor, welcoming the stranger, healthcare, opposing racism, treating women with respect. They are light years closer to the teachings of Jesus in the Gospels than the policies of Donald Trump, which continues to be the brazen junk wagging opposite of everything Jesus commands of us. I don't really see why those of us who've read the Gospels should believe that people who endorse Donald Trump respect the teachings of Christ.
Oh no. The moment Andrew Wilson tries to defend the right-wing track record on helping the poor, the whole argument falls flat on its face. John Fugelsang brings actual receipts. John Fugelsang said this: "Right now, this budget calls for kicking 20 million low-income and disabled people off of Medicaid. This is the reality of conservative policy. They talk a big game about family values and protecting life, but the second someone is born and needs basic medical care, they are entirely on their own. Slashing the social safety net is not a bug in their system. It is the main feature." And how does Andrew Wilson respond to this massive policy failure? Utter denial. Andrew Wilson said this: "There is not a single person has been kicked off of Medicaid right now. Are you kidding me? This is the most frustrating part about arguing with this specific ideology. When the facts completely destroy their narrative, they just pretend the facts do not exist. Millions of people lose access to healthcare due to right-wing policies, and they just wave it away, because acknowledging it would mean admitting their political agenda directly contradicts the faith they claim to defend." Then John Fugelsang delivers the ultimate reality check. John Fugelsang said this: "Opposing racism, treating women with respect, they are light years closer to the teachings of Jesus in the Gospels. This is the part that people need to hear loud and clear. Progressive policies, the ones fighting for healthcare, fighting for equality, protecting the marginalized, those actually align with the fundamental message of caring for your neighbor. You cannot claim the moral high ground while supporting policies that actively harm the working class, strip women of their bodily autonomy, and demonize immigrants." John Fugelsang is exposing the massive disconnect between what these people preach on Sunday and what they legislate on Monday. It is entirely performative, and John Fugelsang is tearing down the curtains for everyone to see.
You are part of a movement that's trying to make the poor more poor and the rich more rich, and that part has been done.
It's hilarious that you say that, when considering Bernie Sanders said that it's a mass migration's a Koch brother conspiracy because it broke the back of the very labor unions you want to see inside the United States, John. Broke the back of them. It used to be that Democrats were the ones who were anti-immigration because of that particular problem, until they realized that they would get a voting block out of it. The next thing to point out here is you didn't actually give me any parables at all that any politicians or a single teaching of Jesus Christ, any politician that you would support follows. You claim that you read the Gospels, but you reject so much of the very Gospels that you read. You claim that there's women who are apostles. You can't point to that. You claim that Paul was in a direct contradiction to Christ's message. You can't prove that either. All that you've done is make assertion after assertion. Your epistemology was completely devastated because it's incoherent. It makes no sense. You can't explain it. On top of that, when we get into the actual policy prescriptions, the best way to uplift people, John, is not to give them money. It's to create the conditionals where they can make the money for themselves. That is the best way to alleviate poverty, not giving them free handouts.
John.
Right. Okay, we give billionaires handouts. We give oil companies $600 million a year just for being you. This is all a racket, and this is how conservative men and women are brainwashed to be furious when we do direct action to help the poor, and then turn a blind eye when we just shovel money to billionaires who already are doing just fine. So the immigration scam, the way you know that it's a scam and they're lying to you is that if they actually wanted border crossings to stop, they would start locking up the white people who do all the hiring. There is a giant help wanted sign at our border. Our economy is propped up by an exploited brown-skinned labor force, and Wall Street doesn't want to see this labor force go away. Donald Trump is the only president to have hired undocumented workers in 2 different centuries. He did it to avoid having to pay a living wage to an American worker. It is a racist scam. If they wanted the border crossings to stop, they'd lock up the employers. The Republicans protect them. That's how you know.
This right here is the biggest scam in modern politics, and John Fugelsang exposes it beautifully. Andrew Wilson tries to fall back on the oldest conservative talking point in the book. Andrew Wilson said this: "The best way to uplift people, John, is not to give them money. It is to create the conditionals where they can make the money for themselves." Let us really think about how ridiculous that sounds when you look at how our economy actually functions. They absolutely hate the idea of giving money to working class families. They call that socialism. But what happens when the ultra-wealthy need cash? John Fugelsang hits the nail right on the head. John Fugelsang said this: "We give billionaires handouts. We give oil companies $600 million a year just for being you." This is what drives me absolutely insane. We have a system of rugged capitalism for the poor and cozy, taxpayer-funded socialism for the rich. When billionaires want a massive tax break, the government opens the vault without a second thought. But when a struggling family needs help, suddenly we have to worry about creating conditionals. It is a rigged game designed to keep wealth concentrated at the very top. And then John Fugelsang brings up the ultimate proof of this hypocrisy, which is immigration. We hear constant fear-mongering about the border, but John Fugelsang shuts that entire narrative down with one undeniable fact. John Fugelsang said this: "If they wanted the border crossings to stop, they would lock up the employers. The Republicans protect them." That is the whole ballgame right there. You have a political machine screaming about the border while actively protecting the massive corporations who hire undocumented workers for cheap, exploitative labor. Think about it like a nightclub. If you truly wanted to stop people from sneaking in, you would go after the bouncer letting them through the back door. But the right wing refuses to penalize the employers because their wealthy donors rely on that exploited labor force to maximize profits. They use migrants as a convenient scapegoat to keep the working class angry and divided, all while their corporate backers cash in. John Fugelsang just revealed exactly how the illusion worked, and it is flawless. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.